The contagion of dislike, when one person's hatred seeps into the crowd.
The first whisper, how dislike breeds collective hatred and lies, opens profound questions about human nature, social contagion, and moral courage. It begins quietly. A subtle shift in someone's gaze, the conversation slows when you enter the room. You can almost feel it, the invisible network of glances, the murmurs that hover just beyond hearing. Dislike rarely announces its arrival. It creeps in through human insecurity, through mirrors of comparison and shadows of pride. Psychologically, this moment is where projection begins, when an individual's discomfort with their own imperfections seeks release by targeting someone else. Sociologically, it has the first beat of what Charles Cooley called the looking-glass self. We begin to see ourselves reflected not by truth, but by others' opinions. Now, the danger is not in being misunderstood, but in how quickly misunderstanding becomes a story. Human cognition is addicted to narrative coherence. We need causes, villains, heroes. So when one person says, "I just don't like them," the brain of the listener, wired for social bonding, fills in the blanks. Why not must have an answer? And when the truth is too vague, imagination rushes to supply one. Question.
When you first began to mistrust someone, did your mind seek evidence or justification?
The mind's tribal algorithm from a cognitive scientific lens. Humans inherited not only genetic material but tribal algorithms. In evolutionary terms, loyalty meant survival. Ostracism meant death. The brain developed shortcuts, heuristics, to detect who is with us and who is against us. Today, that same wiring fires in office politics, online comment sections, and family feuds. Neurologically, social pain, such as rejection, activates the same brain regions as physical pain. When someone dislikes us, it doesn't just bruise the ego, it literally hurts. And in response, we either retreat or retaliate. Societies, no matter how civilized, reproduce ancient patterns. We form coalitions of mutual affirmation. When one member of the group dislikes an outsider, others often align, not necessarily because they believe the rumor, but because agreement feels like belonging. In this way, dislike becomes contagious. Metaphorically, it is like one spark landing on dry grass, a single emotional ignition that spreads until the entire field burns with certainty. No one remembers how it started. They only remember how right it felt to be united in the fire. Question.
Do you belong because you agree, or do you agree because you belong?
The psychology of projection. Sigmund Freud once suggested that hatred is not born in opposition but in identification. We hate in others what we unconsciously fear or repress in ourselves. Modern cognitive psychology supports this idea through projection bias, our tendency to assign our internal conflicts to others. That coworker you call arrogant? Perhaps they embody your fear of invisibility. The social rival you name fake? Maybe they mirror your own performance under pressure. In such moments, hatred isn't an emotion. It's a psychological defense, a disguise for vulnerability. In groups, projections multiply. One person's discomfort transforms into shared ideology. They re not one of us. Lies grow from needs, the need to justify avoidance, superiority, or guilt. And yet the lie feels moral, cloaked in conviction. The group tells itself, we're protecting each other from them. This self-justifying narrative binds communities, political, religious, or corporate alike. But at its core lies fear, the terror of complexity, of ambiguity, of facing the uncomfortable truth that humans are not easily sorted into villains and victims. Question.
When you tell a story about someone else, whose reflection are you really describing?
The social theater every society runs on performance. Irving Goffman, the sociologist of human interaction, described life as theater, each person performing roles before an audience, curating impressions. Now imagine what happens when one actor leaves their designated script. Maybe they refuse to flatter power, or they reveal inconvenient truths. Suddenly, the collective production falters. The audience, fearing chaos, turns against the nonconformer. To restore order, a new narrative emerges. They are the problem. Emotionally, this process feels righteous. Morally, it is catastrophic. Because once the story gains momentum, truth becomes irrelevant. Social groups don't preserve accuracy. They protect coherence. Lies serve as glue for cohesion so long as everyone agrees to believe them. We see this in cancel culture, political smear campaigns, and even family scapegoating. The goal is not to punish evil, but to preserve unity through exclusion. The disliked person becomes a moral scapegoat, absorbing the collective anxiety of the group. Question.
Whose peace depends on your silence, and whose story dies when you hesitate to speak.
The cognitive economy of lies. From a cognitive science standpoint, lies have utility. They conserve energy. Believing is faster than questioning. Doubt requires prefrontal effort. Conformity runs on autopilot. In a world flooded with information, the mind prefers shortcuts that maintain social alignment. Moreover, gossip, as anthropologist Robin Dunbar argues, evolved as a mechanism of cohesion. Talking about others signals trust. When you share secrets, you declare loyalty. But the line between connection and corruption is thin. The moment gossip becomes weaponized, truth dissolves into social currency. Consider how online hate thrives on algorithms that mirror our tribal biases. Outrage equals engagement. Engagement equals profit. Society has turned collective dislike into an industry. The internet, designed to connect us, monetizes our disconnection. Each retweet, each like of a hateful post, becomes a digital endorsement of emotional contagion. Question.
If your anger earns clicks, who really owns your emotions, you or the algorithm?
The anatomy of defamation sociologically. Defamation operates like a cultural ritual. The group must purge its chosen target to restore moral purity. It is a modernized witch trial. No fire needed, only screenshots and hashtags. Cognitively, once reputational damage begins, confirmation bias seals the fate. New information is interpreted through preformed suspicion. Even acts of kindness are reinterpreted as manipulation. Redemption rarely fits the group's preferred storyline. This cycle continues until one truth becomes terrifyingly clear: the group doesn't need proof to sustain its hate, it needs participation. The goal is emotional synchronization, not justice. Question.
When was the last time you questioned a rumor instead of enjoying it?
The mirror of the mob psychology, as Gustave Le Bon detailed in The Crowd, operates by dissolving individuality into collective emotion. The crowd does not think. It feels together. Rationality evaporates, replaced by shared affect. In modern life, the mob is virtual. Pixels masquerading as people, yet its effects are real. Digital mobs ruin reputations, end careers, and destabilize relationships. They operate under the illusion of moral purpose but are animated by something darker: the joy of unanimity. To stand against the mob is to risk exile. Yet to go along is to sacrifice selfhood. The ethical challenge of our age is no longer distinguishing good from evil. It is choosing authenticity over acceptance. Question.
Would you rather be right alone or wrong with everyone else?
Psychological immunity. Is resistance possible? Yes, but it requires what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about our own thinking. This means catching the moment when emotion becomes judgment, when agreement feels too easy, when outrage feels pleasurable. Sociologically, it requires moral courage, the willingness to disrupt harmony in defense of integrity. The truth rarely brings applause, but it restores sanity. Cognitive science tells us that awareness itself alters neural pathways. Repeated self-observation strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational control. Over time, individuals can develop what we might call psychological immunity to contagion, an ability to feel empathy without absorption, concern without conformity. Question.
Are you immune to the emotional viruses of your group?
The chain reaction of dislike. When people begin to not like you, something primitive awakens in the group mind. Dislike seeks validation. It doesn't want to be lonely. So it recruits lies, bending narratives, fabricating motives, justifying hostility. This pattern has played out across history, in politics, religion, and personal relationships alike. Each generation invents new platforms, yet the psychological machinery never changes. One person's resentment becomes the group's reality, and once the lie matures, truth becomes threatening, because truth could destroy the identity built around hatred. From a psychological view, this is the death of empathy. From a sociological perspective, it is the beginning of moral decay. Question.
When did your sympathy last stand in defiance of your belonging?
The courage of the unliked to be disliked is not a tragedy. It is proof of difference. In every era, progress has come from those willing to bear misunderstanding. Psychologically, this demands ego strength, the capacity to withstand rejection without collapsing into revenge. Sociologically, such individuals become moral disruptors, catalysts for truth within systems addicted to comfort. They refuse the narcotic of consensus. Their strength lies in this paradox. They understand that hatred aimed at them often says more about the hater as unmet fear than their own flaw. They respond not with bitterness but with clarity. Question:
What truth within you would you protect even if it costs you popularity?
Epilogue. The final reflection: when people begin to not like you, they want others to hate you too, because loneliness and hatred is unbearable. Lies then become scaffolds to hold up the collapsing ego, stories built not from evidence but from pain. Every whisper is a cry for company and insecurity. But here lies the moral frontier. Your response determines whether you perpetuate the infection or end it. You can absorb their venom and transmute it into understanding, or echo it until it consumes you. Hatred, like a virus, needs a host. Refuse to host it. Refuse to amplify it. Speak truth quietly but steadfastly. Be the one whose integrity outlasts opinion. Because in the end, the measure of a person is not how many admire them but how few can corrupt them. Call to action. The next time you hear someone's name wrapped in contempt, pause. Ask a question no one else dares to ask. How do you know that? The domino of lies stops with a single refusal to fall. Make that refusal your moral habit. Food for thought. When people begin to not like you, they want others to hate you too. Why? Because hatred at its core is the fear of solitude. And lies, those fragile bridges of belonging, are built only by those too afraid to stand alone in the truth.
Please tell me what you think and how you feel about this issue. Analyze it, brainstorm it, debate it, and if you like it, please share it. Thank you for watching. I truly and highly appreciate you, and God bless you.